Okay, in the world of tech right now, you've got giants, and then you've got Nvidia. This is a company that has pretty much become the engine for the entire AI revolution. But, beyond the crazy stock price and the trillion-dollar headlines, how does this company actually make its money? Let's break down the real numbers behind one of the wildest growth stories of our time.
So, to really get a handle on Nvidia, you have to understand the sheer scale of this AI boom. Just look at this number, $13 billion. That's the annualized revenue for OpenAI. Now get this, just 2 years ago, that same number was only 200 million. That is an explosion of over 60 times in a super short period. And they are not the only ones. What we're watching here isn't just fast growth, it's a complete frenzy. You've got companies like OpenAI, Anthropic. Their revenues are just skyrocketing in a way we've almost never seen before. It really is like a modern-day gold rush. They're all digging for these digital fortunes, building bigger and more powerful AI models. And in any gold rush this huge,
well, you know the saying, right? The smartest play is often to be the one selling the picks and shovels, and that is exactly what Nvidia is doing. They have totally cornered the market on the one thing every single one of these AI companies needs to function: the hardware, the GPUs, the processors. They are, without a doubt, the picks and shovel seller of the 21st century.
So let's take a closer look at this powerhouse. I mean, just how big has this picks and shovels business gotten? The numbers are, and I'm not exaggerating, absolutely staggering. In its last fiscal year, Nvidia pulled in a record-smashing $130.5 billion in revenue. That's a jump of 114% in a single year. This isn't just a company doing well. This is a company sitting right at the epicenter of a massive technological shift, and it's reaping all the rewards.
And a huge driver of that revenue is this thing right here, the Blackwell chip. These are basically Nvidia's crown jewels. They're the most powerful AI processors you can buy. And at an estimated $30,000 a pop, they provide the raw horsepower you need to train the biggest, baddest AI models. This is exactly why every major tech company is just desperate to get their hands on them. See, Nvidia's game isn't about selling a lot of cheap things. It's about selling super high-value, totally essential hardware.
Okay, so where exactly is all this money coming from? I'll give you a hint. It's not just from gamers anymore. Let's actually break down Nvidia's revenue streams and see what's what.
Wow. I mean, this chart tells you everything you need to know. A jaw-dropping 89% of Nvidia's revenue now comes from its compute and networking division. That's basically the data center and AI business. The graphics division, the thing the company was famous for, now makes up just 11%. We're talking about a complete reinvention of Nvidia's entire business.
So who are the big spenders here? Well, it's the biggest names in tech. You've got companies like Meta, Elon Musk's xAI, and they're buying these chips by the tens of thousands to build what they call superclusters. These are just massive, interconnected webs of GPUs that are the backbone of their AI operations. We're talking about single orders for up to 100,000 chips, costing billions of dollars at a time.
Now let's zoom out and look at the global picture. Geographically, the US is the biggest market, no surprise there, making up almost half of all sales. But what's really interesting is who's next. We've got Singapore at 18%, then Taiwan at 16%, and China at 13%. That number 2 spot for Singapore, that's a little curious.
Yeah, this really begs the question, why Singapore? I mean, it's a huge business hub for sure, but for it to be the second largest market for the world's most advanced AI chips, that seems a bit unusual, especially when you find out that only 2% of that revenue is for chips that are actually shipped to the country.
And here's where the plot thickens. This weird discrepancy has started raising some eyebrows. There are real concerns that Singapore is being used as a billing location, kind of a middleman, to get these super valuable chips into China, potentially as a way to get around US export restrictions. So this adds a pretty significant layer of geopolitical risk to what otherwise looks like a perfect revenue picture.
And that brings us to the potential risks. Because for a company with this kind of unbelievable growth, you have to ask what could possibly go wrong. Well, if you look closely, you can start to see a few clouds forming on the horizon.
First off, let's just look at the public vibe. Wall Street analysts are, to put it mildly, obsessed. Out of 29 firms that cover the stock, every single one has a buy rating. There are 0 sell ratings. So the message from the financial world is just pure, unadulterated optimism. But what's happening inside the company? Well, that tells a very different story.
This is a pretty stunning piece of data. In the last 6 months, there have been 526 open market trades by Nvidia insiders. Now, the number of times they bought stock? 0. The number of times they sold?
all 526. So while Wall Street is screaming, buy, 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 and everyone, the people who know the company the best are only selling. And we're not talking about small sales here. The man at the very top, CEO Jensen Huang, has personally sold over $1 billion worth of his own stock in that same 6-month window. Now look, there are plenty of reasons for insiders to sell, but the sheer volume and the fact that it is completely one-sided, that's a pretty big red flag.
So, this all leads us to the single biggest question, hanging over not just Nvidia, but frankly the entire tech sector right now.
Is this whole thing just a massive AI bubble? Are these revenues actually sustainable? Or is this a temporary gold rush that's just fueled by hype and is eventually going to come crashing down? You have this incredible growth on one side and some really strong warning signs on the other.
Well, Nvidia's leadership certainly doesn't think it's a bubble. Their CFO, Colette Kress, says we are still in the early innings. So are they right? Is this really just the beginning of a fundamental change in how we do computing, or are we watching the peak of a historic bubble? The data paints a really complicated picture, and the trillion-dollar answer is one that, for now, is still up in the air.